A lawyer cannot promise you that you won't go to jail if you're charged with a crime. If a lawyer makes a promise, you need to be very careful and you need to talk to other lawyers because this person, he or she, is misleading you. The reality is the outcome of every criminal case depends on various factors such as the evidence, the specific charges, and the decisions of the court. So let's talk about the evidence. What evidence does the prosecutor have against you? Is it physical evidence? Is there scientific evidence such as DNA? Or are there witnesses who place you at the scene of the crime or who witness you commit the crime? What are the specific charges you're facing? In many cases, the lawyer is able to work out a plea deal where you end up with probation and or a fine. But there are some charges, for example, such as murder, where the prosecutor is gonna be seeking jail time no matter what. And then third, the decision of the court. This rarely happens, but there are cases where the court, being the judge, refuses to accept the plea agreement. And oftentimes this really depends on the criminal history of the defendant or the egregious nature of the crime charged. So a lawyer promising no jail time is a lawyer who's just saying whatever he or she needs to say to get hired on the case. Now, just because we can't and are prohibited from promising no jail time or a certain outcome, that doesn't mean the lawyer can't and will not do everything in his power to help you. A lawyer can provide legal advice, build a strong defense, and work to achieve the best possible outcome for you if you're charged with a crime. Although our goal often is to avoid our client going to prison, and in many cases we are able to do that, it's not a guarantee I can give. In fact, there's a rule in the rules of professional responsibility that lawyers are obligated to follow that prohibits us from promising a certain outcome. I can promise you I'm going to be prepared to defend you. I can promise you I'm going to show up when I'm supposed to show up. I can promise you that nobody's going to fight as hard for you as we will in this case. I just can't promise a certain outcome. If a lawyer promises you a certain outcome, you need to run away from that lawyer and go find you another lawyer who will fight for you but not promise you something he doesn't have the ability to promise you. Now, what the lawyer can do is promise to hold the prosecutor to his burden of proof in your criminal case. The burden of proof in a criminal case is the obligation of the prosecution to prove your guilt or the defendant's guilt beyond all reasonable doubt. This means that the prosecution must present enough evidence to convince a judge or a jury that the defendant is in fact the person who committed the crime, and there's no reasonable explanation such as self-defense. This is the highest standard of proof in the legal system, beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond all reasonable doubt. And the burden really is this high because the worst thing that could possibly happen in any criminal case is an innocent person going to prison. And this happens, folks. It happens more times than you would imagine. Innocent people go to prison. There are innocent people in prison. That's why this burden of proof is in place. The goal is to really prevent innocent people from ending up in prison for crimes they did not commit. The burden of proof in a criminal case is different than the burden of proof in a civil case such as a car wreck. In a civil case, the burden of proof is called a preponderance of the evidence. 50% plus 1. More likely than not, the defendant caused the wreck in a car wreck. More likely than not, the employee spilled the substance that caused someone to fall. In a criminal case, the burden of proof is the highest burden of proof anywhere in the law, beyond all reasonable doubt. We need to do everything in our power to make sure the prosecutor meets his burden. Otherwise, we risk and continue to risk innocent people being sent to prison and having their lives destroyed for crimes they did not commit. If you or a family member are facing criminal charges, it's important to hire a criminal defense lawyer who is willing to fight for you, one who will hold the prosecutor to his burden of proof, one who will promise to work hard to get the best resolution possible in your case. Stay away from those who promise a certain outcome, especially on day one, without looking at the evidence, without knowing what the facts and allegations are against you. It's just impossible to give a realistic idea of the possible outcome. If you found this video useful, please like it, subscribe, and stay tuned for future videos.